Hello everybody, this is Brad Dyke, just reaching out to you. Sorry I've been out of commission in regards to putting out videos this past month, but we had a lot of weather and a lot of challenges that we had to address in regards to keeping the snow under control and keeping the temperatures under control and things like that. And so needless to say, basically took a little bit of a sabbatical. And as I'm sitting here showing you pictures of my next thought, I also had another idea in my head, so I thought I'd start off with that first. One is I started all of this because people just kept asking and asking and asking for help. They didn't have the skill sets, they wanted to get there, and nobody was wanting and willing to help them unless they were going to pay them money. And I'm like, well, that's just wrong. So years ago, I started helping people out and getting the things at which they needed help with, and they became more and more professional and became professional IT people and just took it from there. And that's just to compliment people, not me, but them, because they listened and they learned and they figured out how to think things out. They enabled themselves, basically. So my thought was, what kind of things would you be interested in seeing me to work with? I deal at a fairly high level in my day job, but I'm fairly flexible in regards to, trying to press the window and make things run a little harder, a little faster. I'll go over here and give you an example of what I mean. Now, as you can see here, from the bottom up, you have the EMC NL400 series platform, which I rebuilt into a true NAS environment. The miner, of course, the 22 series disk storage arrays and their Dell 720XDs servers. A variety of different classes of servers that you see here on the HP and the Isilon level, and custom builds. And then up here, if you look carefully, you see the Pi cluster. And I did an article on this baseline board and some of the complaints that I had about the board in regards to how well you could cable manage it in an efficient capacity. And then, of course, you've got how you take old computers and turn them into skill sets that you can be really strong in, like I did with these old Dell chassis, these OptiRX platforms. And of course, you can't ignore the 10 gig network in the house, right? Oh yeah. Over to scaling and ALB, adaptive load balancing techniques, to autonomous disk platforms, or legacy style DASI interface platforms that work with SAS protocols and so on. And then, of course, all the way back down to the real power horses, which are the old RLX Telco Blade platform and the Sunfire. I just had to have that Sunfire because it was so cool. But anyways, the thought is, what are you guys interested in? What do you want to see more about? How am I going to beat these B250 Asus motherboards into shape? And give recommendations on that in regards, and also how to adapt your test lab environments and so on. I am even thinking about redesigning this board test bed, because yes, I can put the cards over and above, but sometimes it's important to test on the port. That's something I got to do. But as I'm going out, I'll give you one technical review real quick. Here you have what we call the GeForce RTX 270. And as you're looking at this card, it looks pretty interesting. But I got this card, and of course the guy who sold it to me said there was nothing wrong with it. He used it for gaming and so on. But the card died pretty quickly, within about 2 months. So, and then I started looking at my 960 here, which is what you're seeing here. And this is just a generic 960 GeForce card, very popular at one time, still works really well. But something caught my eye, and this is something about GeForce that I thought was really interesting, because the NVIDIA style card configurations really are not much different. That told me right there, wait a minute, the extension board on this is the same as the 960, with just being roughly about a ½ inch longer, as you can see there, between the two. Okay? Now what does that basically mean? Well, that means that the surface area of the CPU chip platform for the 270s is almost the same reference value to the same surface area you're allocating to a 960. Now, a 2070 is supposed to be a fairly higher baseline system, and it is. You can see that by the placement of how the heat sinks attach against the actual placement of the central CUDA allotted processor stack. And if you look here, you can see also the allotted processor stack and the center mass of the chip itself. So, with that being said, there's something going on with this particular design setup, and that is that the heatsink is far greater than the proportional side of the pumping functionality. If you look right in there, you'll see the little pipes. That's a heat pump. Basically, that's moving cold gas to hot gas back and forth, and that means that this chip set, this RTX 2070, is actually heavily tweaked to run hot. Running hot means a shorter life. And if you overclock a running hot board like this, and they do exist, you're always going to short life the video card. That might be intended by the design because they want you to keep buying more and more and more. I don't suspect. I think what they did this for was if this card was to run nominally, in other words, you're not overclocking it, and you run in mid to high level, which is still good performance, this card would last its normal life cycle. But you have to be very careful. Whenever you see the heat sinks transfer to another set of heat sinks, then you know that the video card is going to run hot. Now, I had a Voodoo 5500, and if anyone knows about the Voodoos, those were the quad cards we had way back in the day, and they were sweet. They were really nice. They're the grandfathers of NVIDIA, where GeForce came into play after they transitioned here. But if you look here at this Gigabyte 1060 card, 6 gig card, you have the same situation here. Two extended sets of heat sinks that are here, except in this case, they 3-spanned the pipe. This card died, and it really wasn't stressed out at all. It's just a piece of garbage. Not a very good design, not functional, and definitely pushed to its limit right out of the box. I know this because I've seen this, and it's a critical thing to understand about when manufacturers start throwing on the fans. They're pushing those chipsets to a level that's just not normal. And the end result is that card's life is going to be short. This isn't the only case with this. You also will see it with the Intel Pi cards, which if you look in there, it is a massive single heatsink. Now there is no piping action going on, but it is cooling just like a heat pump, except the entire base is the cool exchange. You can see that with a copper flat line set there. And with this guy, he'll stay cool. Even though he'll be pretty warm, he will stay cool enough to accomplish what needs to be done. And it's spec'd out correctly for the load of the processor stack. And you notice that there is a clear walkthrough on the heatsink, unlike the ones over here, and as you've seen on these other designs. So I thought you would like to see this information, and I'm looking forward to other ideas that which you might have about how you'd like to work with stuff. And I think that one other tiny little detail to help you understand about heat sinks and why they're so important is if you notice here on this NIC card, this 10 gig NIC card here, it has a static heatsink. This is optimal. This is the best way to cool chips. You cool them by making them run cooler. You don't need much aluminum, and it's not even a very high heatsink stack, unlike the heatsink stats that you see in here, where there's just a huge amount of metal on a card that's really no different than a 960. And then here you have something that does kind of run a little hotter. This is SD RAM, as you can see here. There's quite a bit of it right there. And the heatsink dissipator is off to the side, but it also is spec'd to the nature of a lower temperature design chipset. So it's not always the greatest thing in the world to have a small chip and a smaller and a smaller and a smaller footprint for your die, because the end result is you're going to generate a level of heat until the technology can become more optimized and get your wattage level low enough so that you're not having high temperatures that require such heavy amounts of heat sinks. So this is my first thing after all the bad weather and everything. I thought you guys would get a kick out of, and I'm looking for some ideas and some thoughts at which you have. And, let me know. I am looking at doing some upgrading. Yes, you are looking at a VP201MB Viewpoint Panasonic display square 6 screen, and it's old, but it's really nice because it raises and it goes down and it adjusts. And like I said, if you guys have interest in something you'd like me to do, like as you can see here, I'm enhancing the compression ratio of disk capacity, so I'm going to get out of my 10 terabytes of storage here almost 40% of that capacity back, if not more. But the goal here was I wanted to just kind of get a pulse from you guys, see what you'd like to see me tackle. I don't have that many funds. Somebody said I should set up a coin something, a PayPal thing or something like that, and start collecting funds for parts and pieces, but I didn't want to do that until I kind of got a pulse from everybody out there, and just kind of give me what you're thinking. Please feel free to talk in the comments or just under this video if you'd like. And outside of that, God bless, and that's pretty much it for tonight, and I will let you go. Bye.